All right, so at this stage, our anatomy study is done. The downside to this, though, is it is just that. It's an anatomy study. So we did this in a structure that was done optimally for anatomy, traditionally for anatomy. But what we need to explore now is how to make this something that can be used for animation. So the first thing we're going to explore is changing the position. This position currently is a little bit too low on the arms to rig. These areas would be too attaching. It'd be very hard to rig. We could. If you're talented enough, you can figure it out. But we're generally going to want to change this into an A pose or a T pose. Those are the two common poses that you'll see characters modeled in. So navigating to my ArtStation page, I can show you both an A pose and a T pose. If we come into most of my characters, their default pose will be in the A pose. So this is an example of an A pose here. This is why it's called an A pose. The arms kind of fall to the side. Waistline, kind of like so. So it forms the letter A at the end of the day, right, in terms of the character structure. Now, the A pose is generally the ideal pose in this day and age. It's good if your character is not going to lift their arms above their head, and a vast majority of the time, a character's arms never come above their head. Now, I have a funny story about this. I prefer to work in A pose because it's a bit more anatomically correct. So I was working on a game, and I did all the characters in A pose. And then when the animations rolled around, almost all the animations were over the head. I have no idea why. It was cheering animations and just gesturing where the arms were going way over the head. And it was so in excess. It's not how people really move. It kind of made me a little bit annoyed. Because had I known that they were just going to have characters running around with their hands in the air all the time, I would have used the other pose, which is the T pose. So A pose, it gives you a more naturalistic look. The muscles lay more naturally. It tends to give you better looking shoulders in terms of the topology. So it's a nice pose to use for 99% of things. A T pose I have not used in a while, but on this older character of mine in the rigging video, we can see the T pose. T poses are very common to use traditionally, and you'll see this a lot in video games, where the arms are going straight out and the body straight. That's why it's called a T pose. It looks like a T. It's just easy to rig, and when it comes to motion capture responds to this really well. So if you're going to do like a motion capture style character, T pose is generally the way you want to go. Now, the other thing I want you to notice, though, is on both these characters, the palms are facing down. They're not facing forward like our character is currently. So remember, there's supination and pronation. We talked a bit about that. So right now, these are supinated. We want them to be pronated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer here. We're just going to name it pronation. And what that's going to do is it's going to be just rotating the hands around to be on the side. So I'm going to go to a low subdivision, probably 1 or 2 for this. You don't want to go high. And you want to mask this so that the hands are going to be aligned with the arms better. So I'm going to start with the hands here. And I might want to do the hands at a higher subdivision level, actually. Just rotate these to be in alignment with the arms so they're not straight. We did them straight because they're easier to sculpt, but they're a lot easier to move when they are angled with the arm. So take some time masking this. I'm just trying to get a better mask for what I want, and then just soften it. And we're going to come here to the rotate. We can hit the world rotate here, kind of come to the center of the hand and place this, lock it, and then rotate this to be in alignment with the arm. And if we have a good alignment here to the arm, we can rotate this again. You might need to come in here and adjust some things, so you'll see how this got pinched. This is pretty normal, you know, when doing posing, to have to come back in and sculpt some things. So that's fine. But now what we need to do is we need to pronate these. So we need to rotate them so the hands are kind of facing the other way. Now, when this occurs, what's happening is those bones are twisting. So you remember we went over this, we talked a bit about this in the crochet section and the anatomy section, but those bones kind of twist around each other. So up here, there's going to be no movement, and this is the tricky thing. We're not going to have movement here, but down here we are and along these axes here. So when you rotate the arm, you kind of want to rotate it midway, not at the hand, but midway, like so that the muscles rotate with it. Now, the tricky part here is to get this into alignment. So let's just try our best to do so. And from the side, angle that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to rotate these to the hands are going to the side, like so. And you'll notice that our arm is going to twizzle a bit. That's going to be something we're going to want to explore. But yeah, we want to get those hands to the side. Now, what I might want to do there is just soften this a bit more and just work with this a bit more to get that rotation looking good. But we want thumbs forward, arms to the side here as much as we can. Maybe even orthographically, so those fingers kind of align down that way. And then you can adjust their angle a bit more. But that's essentially what we're looking for there. And then we can come in and adjust any of the forms that we feel need adjusting. So in terms of this, I think this actually looks okay, but some of these areas, you know, at a lower level, I might want to just kind of twist and roll a little bit better. So for example, here, this muscle group's kind of twisting and rolling. I'm just going to use the H polish here to get that to flatten a little bit better and not be so bulky and just maintain the arm shape nicer. Also coming down to here, you can see how we're losing the volume on the arm there. Maybe just come in here and add the volume back, you know. We know there's a muscle group there. We know how it's twisting, so just kind of getting that back. And then same here, you can see how we're kind of losing the volume. Just kind of get that back. And I'm doing this all at a very low subdivision because I don't really want to interrupt my sculpt detail at the higher level. I just want to inform the primary form here so that we have that going. And you can see that creates that twist on the backside of the arm, which is kind of prominent. You didn't really see that in the other positioning, but now we do, which is kind of funny. All right, so there we go. That is going to kind of do the trick there and get that rotated around there so that we have that twisted. All right. Now we might also want to straighten out the fingers. That is another story. So we gave them a slight angle for the purpose of making them a little bit easier to sculpt. But logically, it'd be a good idea to come in here and angle them out again. Now, remember, we did all the base fingers together, so we can probably come along here with our mask and grab those and theoretically come in here with the move tool, bring this down, kind of maintaining this positioning here. I might just reset it real quick and then just give those a slight angle up again. And a little secret is I actually like to do this with my mouse. So I know I'm a big proponent in ZBrush of doing things with the Wacom, but this is one of those things that I tend to do with the mouse. Then we're going to want to do each finger. It's just how it's going to go. We're going to want to do this. I am going to hide the legs. This is an area you got to be careful with because sometimes when you hide things, ZBrush does weird stuff. So we're going to do an experiment here real quick with this finger. We're going to see if ZBrush is going to do weird stuff to me or not. But let's get that placed, straighten that. And what I want to do is just reveal the legs, make sure they didn't rotate, and then hit Control-Z. So the legs didn't rotate. That's a good sign. That means ZBrush didn't do weird stuff. It changes from version to version. So sometimes when you have hidden areas, ZBrush likes to move whatever isn't hidden. But it looks like in this version it doesn't. So yay. All right, so let's just move this down, make sure you have that lock-unlock system going, and straighten that. Okay, so something like that. Straight finger, one, straight finger. All right, now we can get into the next finger. Same sort of deal here. I'm just going to keep the legs hidden. But you do want to, every now and then, just double check that ZBrush isn't doing anything weird behind the scenes. All right, so something like that. And we'll straighten that one out. Actually, we already straightened it from the base, so I really only need to go from the knuckle. I'm not sure why that's not selecting the knuckle area. There we go. Just getting a better angle there on the side. So let's go ahead and reset the rotation here. Or not. Can I undo that? No. Okay. I'm going to go back home and reset this. Sometimes that's just the best way to do it. Know what exactly happened there, but something a little weird. And it doesn't have to align perfectly with the knuckle from every view. It can be useful. We do, however, want to match the angle of the finger, and we do want to match the relative placement of the ankle, but as far as the rotation goes, it's whatever. That should be fine. And you might end up using something like the move tool here if you didn't quite get it perfect. We can go ahead and do the next area. Repeat the process here. And usually, once you have one area kind of placed, it's just a matter of moving down along one axis and then giving a slight angle there. So that'll get that finger in place. And once again, we might have to adjust this after. One more finger to go. Careful not to get one of the other fingers in there. I had the pinky in there slightly. Yeah, we're just going to move this over. And this is one of those ones that's kind of annoying. I can't just move it over. I got to kind of rotate it and then move it over. But just get approximate here. All right, and then do the same thing for the next finger joint. And this can take a bit. Argument for just doing it in the pose the first time. And normally I do when possible. It's not always possible. Sometimes your reference just, it's better suited for this way. But to do a proper anatomy study, you really want to do it the way we did it. Doing it in T-pose is a bit of a nightmare, and doing it with the arm twisted is also a nightmare. Seeing how the muscles lay just kind of in their own way is important. And it's also good practice to change up the position of a mesh for the purpose of rigging. Okay, so something like that should do us good. And it looks like we didn't lose anything there. So that is going to get our hands in position. We can double check the fingers there, but we kept the finger detail brief enough to where we didn't really lose anything. Remember, that was kind of our purpose. We're going to save this. We're going to make this our A pose change. And the next part that's tricky is getting the arms to move. So this is not going to be that easy. This is where anatomy diagrams can definitely help you understand how muscles move. In the Paul Richet book, there is some good diagrams on this. So I'm just going to put that out there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hide the body, get the arms masked by themselves, bring the body back and soft select. Actually, I'm not going to soft select. I'm going to invert these, grab my move, hit the home button, hit the rotate button, move these up, and to the shoulder joint, to the center of the shoulder joint. It can help if you rotate these a bit so they're squared a little bit more to the side. And then we're going to rotate these up like so, and you're going to see our muscles go crazy here. And we'll have to decide how we want to approach this. So if I soft select this, that's probably going to be better. So I'll just go ahead and control click that and get this into an A pose. So right around here, we're going to be at an A pose for the most part. What we need to do now is just kind of see what kind of things need to be tweaked with the muscles. I think for the most part, looking at this, I just kind of need to smoothen the trapezius muscle a little bit there. As far as the latissimus dorsi goes, that's going fine. I don't really have an issue with that. We're also going to start to be able to see this area of mystery underneath our arm, which is basically just going to be us smoothing this, if you're wondering. That's pretty much it. So something like that gets us into an A pose, and you can see why I would prefer to work with an A pose, because getting up to a T pose is going to be a chore, but that would be fine. So that is going to be A pose there. We might need to explore the muscles a little bit more in terms of their bulking, but that for the most part's it. So at this point, this character can be good for retopology, rigging, and animation. So let's just do a quick comparison so you can see the difference between A pose and our anatomy study. If you're wondering, the way we do that is we just take our pronation layer here and toggle visibility. And you can see kind of the shift there and some of the muscular areas. And we might want to even experiment with that a little bit, looking at our anatomy charts. But there you go. Another cool thing you can do is you can take the pronation to 0, and you can animate it by sliding up and kind of see how that goes. You'll see that it doesn't quite animate. You'd need a lot of in-betweens, but you can see kind of the transition, which is fine. Okay, so that is going to get our character ready to go. We're going to get our arms out of being twisted. We're going to get our arms away from the body in the form of an A pose. We might want to take a little bit more time here on this A pose, just kind of cleaning up the armpits. You can see there's a bit of a line there that I might want to come in here and just kind of nudge away. But that is going to do the trick. And get our character prepped to go to the next process, which would be retopology for the purposes of animation. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap up this session. We'll go ahead and save out our progress. And as a challenge, what I want you to do is I want you to take your anatomy study and I want you to switch it to be in an A pose with the palms down and the arms out to the side, like what you're seeing here. All right, so go ahead and give that a shot. And then when we come back, we're going to discuss the process of transitioning from ZBrush into another application such as Maya for the purpose of animation retopology.